What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Stats Aren't Sealy, back with another bang DD bang D bang D bang 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 banging episode, man. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about shot placement and grouping. So when you're on the range, most people when they're on the range, especially when they're close quarters, don't want to have that perfectly quarter size holes where all the rounds and the bullets is going through the same hole. And then when you're at distance, you want to have that nice fit size, grouping where all the grouping is like no bigger than your fist. Does that translate to a good thing in a real life shooting? That is today's episode. All right, y'all. So jumping right into this episode, man. So I had a discussion the other day with somebody, and we were talking about grouping on the range. And like I remember on one of the last qualifications that we had, one of the range quals that we had, I wasn't really too worried about like perfectly placed shots and groupings and making my holes that my target hits. I wasn't focused about making them like super small. A lot of my shots, even though they're tight, they're not all over the place looking like a buckshot, but they're in like at least like a 10 to 12 inch circle. If you were to make a 12-inch circle, all my shots was in that 12-inch range. And then, you have other people that shoot and, their groupings are a little bit closer. Most of their shots is like within a fist size. And that's cool and everything. And that is cool for when you're on the range shooting paper. It's good for bragging rights to show accuracy. And of course, when you're in a real life shooting, yes, you want to be accurate because you want all your rounds to hit the intended target and don't miss. Your whole purpose of, getting into shooting is to not miss. We were talking about that. And yes, when you're on the range, I believe when you're on the range and you're qualifying and you're shooting, if you got nice, perfectly quarter size holes, grouping quarter size groupings or fist size groupings, at 15, 20 yards or whatever, that's cool. That's pretty cool. But in a real life situation, you're not going to be shooting that perfect because you're going to be under stress. There's going to be a lot of going on. It's going to be a lot of adrenaline, a lot of stress going on. So your hands are going to be shaking. You're not going to be steady. Your heart's going to be going 100 miles per hour. So you're probably most likely in a real life situation and in a real life shooting, you're probably most likely not going to get the prettiest groupings. And if you really look at a lot of police shootings, a lot of cops, when they take shots, they miss like a lot of their shots, if not half their shots are misses. And it's not because they don't train. It's not because they can't shoot. It possibly could be because of that. I don't know all those individual cops' training habits or, skills or whatever in the range. But the fact that statistics show that half of police shots are missed during a shootout, especially in close quarters or whatever, that goes to show you that when you're on the range, you don't have nobody shooting back at you. It's usually not a lot of stress or not a lot of realistic stress, because I've noticed on the range that you can stress yourself out by running up in hills, doing burpees and jumping jacks and running up hills and squatting and doing push-ups, and you can stress your body out, or you can raise your heart rate doing stuff like that. Cardio type stuff to raise your heart rate, but you're not under stress though. Like for the most part, yeah, your heart rate's raising, your body's, you're breathing a little bit harder, but you're not really under that psychological and mental stress in a real life that you would be in a real life situation. So although you see people, they run back and forth to do push-ups and the jumping jacks and burpees, and then they shoot, that helps because that helps that when you're in a real life situation, that helps you train yourself to control your breathing and to calm your breathing and to bring your heart rate down and to try to relax as much as possible when your heart rate is elevated. So doing those type of training is super important. It is very important to do those type of trainings. I'm not knocking them, and I'm not saying don't do them. But what I'm saying is, what a lot of people don't take into accountability is that when you're in a real life situation, first of all, you don't know that you're going to have to use your gun until it's that time to use your gun. Mentally, you're not, most of the time, most people are not mentally prepared that, oh, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm putting groceries in my car, I'm gonna have to shoot somebody. You don't think about that because as human beings, we hope for the best. You know what I'm saying? We hope for the best. And when you train and when you're a tactician out here shooting and training or whatever to be a better shot, you're hoping for the best but training for the worst, like really. But when that time comes for you to be in a real life situation, you got to pull your gun and you got to choose to take that shot and defend yourself. You don't know it's coming. On the range, you know you're going to shoot. If you got a shot timer, yeah, you don't know exactly when the shot timer is going to beep, but you know it's going to beep. So you're ready for it. You're mentally ready for it. You're mentally ready. Okay, this thing is going to beep at any second and I got to draw my gun. And so you're mentally preparing for this. You're mentally preparing to react to that beat. You're mentally preparing to grab your gun. You know, if you're carrying concealed, move your garment, get your gun and, you know, press out and get on target. You're mentally getting ready for this stuff. And if you're in a real life situation, if you're in a real life self-defense situation, if you're on duty and in an on-duty shooting, you're not thinking like, let me take that back. Most cops, when they go to calls, they think about the worst case scenarios. Like they always tell you, even when you're in the police academy, when you're in training, in field training, they always tell you, start pre-gaming in your head of the worst case scenarios and how you're going to react. So most cops do think about that, but I'm not talking about law enforcement. I'm not talking about military. I'm talking about the regular average Joe carrying their gun. It's not thinking about scenarios. When I go to the grocery store with my wife, or if me and my wife go to the store and we're shopping or whatever, I'm always mentally thinking of, if I have to use my gun right now, where is a good place for me to shoot? Where do I want to place my body? Where do I want to position myself in a self-defense situation? Where's the exit? If somebody starts shooting, like this literally goes through my mind every time I go to the store. I walk in, I see where the entrance is. I see who's at the entrance. I see what kind of entrance it is. Does it open automatically? Do you have to push it? Do you have to pull it? You know what I'm saying? Do you have to sit there and wait for it to open up, or do you have to slide the door, push the door? You know, all this stuff is going through my head anytime I go into anywhere. On my days off when I'm with my wife, I look at the exit. I'm like, is there anything that could possibly block that exit if everybody starts running out this door right now? If everybody starts running out, is there anything that's gonna block the entrance? Do I have to worry about shopping carts? I have to worry about, you know, product stands, or, you know what I'm saying, anything that could possibly block. I'm looking at all the possibilities, and I'm thinking every time I go somewhere, I'm like, if I go down the aisle, okay, if this guy starts shooting right now, if this guy pulls out a gun, what am I going to do? If this guy behind me pulls out a gun, what am I going to do? If this guy over here pulls out a gun, what am I going to do? If a guy over here is going to pull out a gun, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? If I'm with my wife, what is going to be her role? Am I just going to try to just get her to cover and safety, or just tell her to get down? Like, all this stuff is going through my head. What's going to be the best, or what I think could possibly be the best reaction for me and my wife in a real life situation. So not everybody think like that. Not everybody think about, you know, if I go into the store, how am I going to react if I have to pull my gun on and shoot and defend myself? If somebody starts shooting a bunch of people, what am I going to do? How am I going to react? You know, how am I going to identify myself as law enforcement so I don't end up getting shot when uniformed police show up? So that's why I always try to make it a habit to always have my badge with me when I go anywhere, so just in case I can tell people, like, hey, don't shoot, I'm the damn police, don't shoot me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because these are all the things that I think about, and these are all the things that you should think about if you're a law-abiding citizen carrying a firearm. But anyways, going back to the original topic of perfectly placed groupings. If when you're on the range, you're practicing and you're shooting perfect quarter size holes or fist size groupings at 15 to 20 yards, quarter size groupings at 5 to 10 yards. If that's what you're doing on the range and that's how you shoot, that's good. You want to strive to be better. You want to strive to get tighter groupings when you're on the range, because that's going to help your accuracy in a real life situation. When you got to pull your gun out to shoot, it just comes natural and it becomes instinctive because you practice and train. But today's topic is, do those perfectly placed quarter size groupings from 5 to 10 yards, or those perfectly placed fist size groupings from 15 to 25 yards, do those translate to good hits in a real life situation? If somebody pulls a gun on you and they're 5 to 10 feet from you and you pull your gun out and you take that shot, are you shooting to get perfect groupings? I'm pretty sure when you're in that situation, you're not worried about the perfect groupings. You're not worried about putting quarter size holes in somebody. You're just worried about putting lead on target. That's your main concern, is getting as much rounds as possible as you can, as fast as possible, and as accurate as possible. That's the main focus when you're in a real life shoot. So nobody's sitting there thinking about the perfect grouping. So even though you're under range and you're shooting nice quarter size groupings at 5 to 10 yards, when you're in a real life self-defense situation and you're in a life and death situation and you're using your gun to defend yourself, you don't want perfectly quarter size groupings in somebody. If you shoot someone, if you have to use your gun in self-defense and shoot someone, and you don't want 2, 3 of your rounds going through the same hole, because that's not creating the stopping power, the stopping damage that you need to stop this person. So if you take 2 shots and they're like pop and they're both in the same touch, and the like in the targets, a lot of times when I shoot, like if I double tap a lot of my rounds, a lot of my groupings, the 2 rounds are touching each other. 2 or 3 rounds, if I shoot 3 shots, I can make 2, 3 of my rounds touch each other on a paper target at 5 to 10 yards. And I'm not saying it like I'm special. I mean, that's what most people do anyways from 5 to 10 yards. Most people who actually shoot in a regular can put 2 or 3 rounds damn near in the same hole from 5 to 10 yards. But what I'm saying is, does that translate to a good shoot, a good shot in a real life situation? A real life person is coming at you. Because think about it. If you let off 2 or 3 rounds, let's say that's all you're able to let off because your gun jammed or something happened, right? It's those 3 rounds that are damn near went through the same hole. Is that going to stop the person? Unless you hit a vital organ and shut them down immediately, it might not stop this person. I've seen plenty of videos and I've heard plenty of stories from cops where they shot people like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and that person just keeps coming. And the reason why they keep coming is because none of the vitals got hit yet. So you're shooting them, and you can shoot somebody 10 times and they still come at you before they finally slow down and they finally drop. Because not only you probably didn't hit a vital, maybe you hit a vital, but their body is still going off of adrenaline and it's taking a while for that vital organ to shut down and stop working. I'm saying all that to say this: when you're on the range, you're striving to shoot perfect grouping, perfect tight groupings. When you're 5 to 10 yards, you want your groupings to be like quarter size groupings. That's creme de la creme, perfectly sized, perfectly grouped shots when you're shooting on the range. But when you're in a real life situation, you want to spread those rounds out throughout the body. You want to spread those rounds out. You don't want perfectly placed groupings, because let's say you hit somebody in the upper torso, but you don't hit a major organ. And you shot that person 2 or 3 times and you got the perfect grouping, pop, 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 three shots, and they're all damn near touching each other on a human target. Think about it. The bullets possibly might be going through the same wounds already. So where the first round went in. So the first round went in, the second round might have come in, and it might not maximize the damage. So in a real life situation, you want your groupings to be a little bit spread out. You don't want that perfectly quarter size groupings when you're in a real life defense. You want to spread those rounds, or you want to spread those rounds around the body. You want to make sure you hit that torso, but you want to make sure you share the love and spread the love throughout the body. You don't just want to hit that one spot, because you might miss a vital. Especially, what I'm saying, you might miss a vital in the first and maybe the second round. Maybe the third round might hit a vital, maybe not. You know what I'm saying? You never know, because there's a lot of people that survive multiple gunshot wounds because a vital wasn't hit. They might have got shot 6 times, but all 6 shots missed any vitals. So that's why you want to try to increase your stopping capability by spreading those rounds and try to hit multiple major organs if you're like in a self-defense situation. When you're in a range situation and you're 5 to 10 yards and you're shooting perfectly quarter-sized groupings, that looks cool for the range. That's cool for bragging. That's cool for showing off online. Like, hey, look, this is what I shot. A lot of dudes, you see them post pictures online and it's like, I shot this at 25 yards and the grouping is like quarter-sized groupings. At 25 yards, you shot you shot 10 shots. You shot 10 to 17 rounds at 25 yards and they all went inside of a quarter. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I mean, 17 rounds in a quarter size from 25 yards, I don't know, man. I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it. Hey, if you do, you do, man. I'm not saying it. But I'm just saying, just keep it 100 with yourself, man, because in a real life situation, man, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter. You can show off for the gram. You can try to post your perfect shots for the gram or whatever. What matters is that in a real life situation, you can get those rounds on target and stop that target as soon as possible with as little rounds as possible. You know what I'm saying? That was today's topic, man. That's what I wanted to talk about. Groupings, man. It's perfectly placed grouping, a gift or a curse in a real life situation. And honestly, the way how my brain works, I you know what I'm saying, my brain is like, if I'm trying to stop a human target that's coming at me, that's threatening my life, I don't want 3 of my rounds going in the same hole. I don't want 3 of my rounds penetrating that person in the same exact spot. I want my rounds to be spread out. I'm going to move it around. I'm going to move it around on them to make sure I get some to spread that love. You know what I'm saying? That's the only time shooting a target is acceptable for you to have those shots spread out. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want them to spread where you miss. You want to make sure you keep it inside that torso size and that 12 to 13 round circumference or whatever. You want it to stay inside the silhouette zone. You don't want your rounds to go past the shoulder. You don't want your rounds to miss. You want your rounds to stay in this squared area of the body. This is where you want your rounds to hit. And you want to spread those rounds out. You don't want to put 3, 4, 5 rounds in the same hole, because you might not hit vitals and that person might still come at you. So when you shoot, you want to make sure you spread them out. So don't get too fixated when you're training on getting perfectly placed quarter-sized groupings from 5 to 10 yards. Make sure when you're training, yes, there is time to train to get perfectly groupings, because there's times that I train and I try to just get my shots as tight as possible, and that's because I'm working on my accuracy. So when I'm working on accuracy and I'm accuracy focused, then yes, I'm focused on trying to get in those tighter groupings. But don't make the mistake and only focus on accuracy type training, because yes, you want to be accurate in a real life situation, but you want to be realistic also. So make sure you train realistically. Make sure you train from 5 to 10 yards. You randomly drop in, you have something in your hand, you drop it, you pull your gun out and you take those shots. You want to practice that. You want to practice just reacting to shooting unexpectedly with your back turn. You want to practice turning. You want to practice probably ducking down for cover and then taking those shots. So these are the realistic type trainings that you have to train. So don't just sit there and train for accuracy. Don't just train for accuracy. Yes, you want to train, you want to be as accurate as possible, but don't forget to train realistically also, because yes, you can train for accuracy all day, but a lot of the times, like I said, when you're in a real life situation, when you're stressed out, your adrenaline's pumping, your heart's going 100 beats per second, you're not going to have those perfect shots. Your body's physically not going to let you get those perfect shots when you're stressed out, you're scared, your adrenaline's going. So don't get too caught up and just focus in on accuracy. Yes, train for accuracy. Don't get it twisted. I'm not telling you don't train for accuracy, because I know they're going to say, oh, this guy is saying don't train for accuracy, so everybody's going to be out here shooting and missing. That's not what I'm saying. Train for accuracy, but don't just train for that. Train realistically. Train to make sure that you're taking shots and you're spreading those shots, and make sure you're controlling where those shots going. Don't just shoot all crazy, shoot 10 rounds and you miss 5 because you're not accurate. So that's what I'm saying. Just because you're not training for the perfect groupings and small tight groupings, you can still train to make sure you hit that target. Make sure you plug those targets, make sure you spread those rounds around in the target and try to hit those vitals. So that's what I'm saying. Train realistically. So every time you go to the range, you don't have have to try to get perfectly grouped shots, quarter size group shots from 5 to 10, or fist size groupings from 15 to 20 yards. So don't just focus on that, man. Make sure you go out and you train realistically. Make sure you train to spread that shot around. Of course, be accurate and make sure you hit that target. Don't miss the target, you know what I'm saying? Don't go past the D zone of the target. You know, there's an A, B, C, and D zone. Don't go past the D zone. When I train, I always try to stay in at least the C zone. I try to stay in the C zone of the silhouette. I'll probably put a picture up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I try to stay in the C zone of the silhouette as much as possible, but try not to go past the C zone. So when I train to stay in the C zones. You know what I'm saying? I don't care to be, yes, I'm trying to get A zones, but that's not my focus. I'm not focused on accuracy when I'm doing realistic training. When I'm training for accuracy, then yes, I'm focused on accuracy and getting those tight groupings. But when I'm doing real life scenario training and real life training, realistic training, I'm trying to stay in the C zone. So train to stay in the C zone and spread those shots out. Train yourself to learn how to stay within the C zone of the body. Stay within the C zone of the body. That's what you should train for. That's what you should realistically be training for. Sitting there trying to train and hit the A zones and every shot's from 15, 20 yards, that's not realistic, man, because like I said, in real life situation, adrenaline, stress, you might be hurt. You never know, man. It's a lot of things going on and you're not going to be accurate like how you are in the range. When you're on the range shooting for accuracy, nobody's shooting back at you. When you're on the range shooting for accuracy, you're not seeing bodies, you're not seeing bullet holes, you're not seeing a bunch of blood everywhere. This thing psychs you out. This thing stresses you out. You see bodies on the ground, you see a lot of blood on the ground, that's going to stress you out. You know what I'm saying? Your adrenaline is going to be off the charts. So make sure that when you're training, make sure you train for realistic, reality-based training. That's what I like to call it. Realistic training, realistic reality-based training, where you try to keep your shots in the C zone of the human silhouette targets. So that's my 2 cents, man. That's the topic of today, man. Groupings, man. Don't be so hyper focused on tight groupings. Make sure you practice to spread those shots around so you can hit those vitals, so you can stop the threat as soon as possible, man. That's all I got for today, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's your boy, Stats Aren't Silly. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, make sure you guys subscribe, make sure you guys turn on the bell notifications so you guys get notified every time we drop another banging video. Remember, always be greater than you were yesterday. We live to train because we train to live. Once again, we live to train because we train to live. Thank you guys for tuning in, man. It's your boy, Stats Aren't Silly. We'll see you in the next episode, man. Peace. What's up, y'all? It's your boy, and if you guys want to save money, you might want to check out my affiliate links in the description. If you're looking to purchase firearms and accessories, hit the affiliate links and use my discount code. Not only are you going to save yourself discounts, but that's another way you can support the channel. We have affiliate links to companies like Daniel Defense, 1791 Holsters, Brownells, Sons of Liberty Gunworks, Faxon Firearms, Aero Precision, Alien Gear Holsters, Falco Holsters, Grayman Tactical, Euro Optics, Gorilla Ammunition for all your rifle and handgun ammunition needs, Pro Airs, Ballistic Advantage, Blue Force Gear, and many, many, many more companies in the firearm industry. So you guys hit those links and save you money. That's how you support the channel. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in.